think so.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Weird and Whatever podcast. How the hell is everybody doing?
Awesome.
Good.
And must mention, we have a birthday in the house.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Beckett turns
35.
nice.
Getting
Don't
up
look,
there.
Don't look a day over 25, my
Yeah.
man.
Thank you.
For real.
You look great. Every day, or every time we do a podcast, who's that guy?
I think I look older than you, man.
And
I'm actually like a year younger.
I'm feeling it. We did brunch on Sunday down Clematis, and then I had this karaoke system installed at my house.
Nice.
So I got a bunch of people back, and definitely woke up feeling a lot older than 35 on Monday morning.
You got karaoke at your house?
I had this guy. My buddy is AV, and he came and set like legit South Korea.
Oh, dude, we should go over there for karaoke.
We're crashing at Beckett's
Yeah.
place. Miss or Mrs. Vicky? Miss Vicky. How the heck are you? I didn't mean for that to get uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know. Now you just ruined my day. Thanks.
You couldn't even notice.
I'm trying to get everyone to, get to know everybody and what our lives are about. And all right, I think I'm pegging over here, Denny's, with my volume.
You're the very first pot.
Okay. And Denny's, how the hell are you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Excited for a little Feldman action.
Yeah, we're going to Corey Feldman tonight. Up in it's about 2.5 hours. Not a very good choice for us to do that on a Tuesday.
We're gonna get back late.
We're gonna be miserable tomorrow. And
How would I know Feldman? What was he in?
Corey Feldman was in The Goonies. He's Mouth.
Oh, okay.
He is
Lost
Lost
Boys.
Boys.
So he's doing stand-up tonight?
That would be awesome.
He's a musician now. He sings now.
He's transitioned.
All right, so so that was the whatever. Let's get into the weird. Let's talk about omens. What are your guys' opinions on omens? Do you think they're real? For example, you see a black cat dart out in front of you. Do you automatically think, oh, shit, things are going wrong?
I think we've talked about this from a baseball
Yes.
family. Like
And I'm talking more...
superstitious.
I'm not talking so much superstitious like I put my socks on because I got a couple hits. I'm talking you see a black cat or you see something that might lead into it's almost like a premonition, but it's one of those omens.
Yeah, when I first bought my car, I bought it. It just came off lease, and I looked at the VIN when it arrived, and in the middle it has 3 6s, and it freaked me out. And I was like, this is why I've had so much problems with this car.
So that you did have problems with the car.
Oh, well, yeah, it's a high maintenance car, but it's I've had problems with the car.
You got to watch out for those high maintenance cars and those high maintenance women.
I feel like I'm just attracted to them.
I hear you.
What do you think?
They're nice.
What do you think, Vicky? Omens? This is more your realm, I think.
Yeah, but I'm really not that into them. I really don't think there's a whole lot to it. I mean, you want to talk about the sixes? My birth date is 8/6/66. So I have the 3 6s at the end of mine. So
The mark of
no.
the beast.
Yes. So
Wow.
no, I don't believe it.
What are some other famous omens that are out there? You've got the
Black cat.
The black cat. Don't walk under a ladder. Is that considered an omen?
That's superstition.
That's a
Super- yeah,
superstition.
superstitious.
An omen, I think we could talk about the Mothman.
Yeah, okay, let's
Mothman
get
That
into
falls
it.
under more of the omen because someone saw the Mothman creature before the bridge collapsed in West Virginia. Some people also claim to have seen the Mothman before 9/11 as well.
What's that one? There's a video out, and is it Slender Man? Have you ever heard of the tale of
Slender
Slender
Man.
Man? Look, I know you're rolling your eyes over there, Vicky,
Yeah.
but the millennials, the youngsters, some of them believe in the Slender Man. They think that I know it's folklore, but there might be something to that.
Yeah, they believe it. I mean, I'm sure people roll their eyes at some of the things that I believe in as well, but that to me is so manufactured.
Do you know the story of how that became?
Bring it.
So a guy entered a contest for photography, and that was the one he submitted, was a picture of kids running with a guy peeking behind of a tree. And that's how Slender Man was born. And they started writing tales around that.
Did they ever find out what the guy was in the picture?
The guy digitally imposed him. He stretched his
yeah.
own image out taller.
They have some of those photos. I don't know if you guys have seen them, but it's things no one can explain where there's something in the background. And they have gone through experts that say, no, this is not a fake. This is no Fugazi. There's the one, the famous spaceman picture. Have you guys seen that one? Little girl, I believe from the 70s maybe. I might be off on the time, but father takes a picture of his little girl out in this like flower meadow area. And they develop the film, and they look back, and there's a space dude standing right behind her. Was never there.
What's a space dude? Like an astronaut?
He had like he looked more like like an astronaut, kind of a man from outer space, kind of a thing. And they took it to experts, and they said this is not a fake. They have no idea what the hell this is. Nothing.
I don't know.
You think
That's
it's
weird.
I have to see it.
You guys,
Well, so where's it at? What state?
gosh.
The only reason I ask is because, like, if somebody's got like a radiation suit and they got like a Geiger counter, they'll totally look like a alien.
According to
Martian.
the account, there was nobody there the day they took the picture. And I'm bringing this up because I'm asking people who are listening to this podcast, if you've ever taken a picture, just a regular picture, and then you've developed it, or if someone's developed it, have you ever seen something you cannot explain? If you have, I would love to see those and post them up, see
Yeah.
what people think.
That'd be cool.
I agree.
Well, it's like your dog's ear photo.
Look, my dog ear photo, I think, is legit. There's a face in my dog's ear. I'm sorry, there is. And I will go to the urn saying that. Because that was during the height. That's when you came to my apartment off of Village Boulevard. And that was the most ghost activity I've ever had in a house. That was in the thick of it. So, I don't know. I think there's something related to that. And maybe there's a way, maybe that's spirit somehow trying. Maybe there's something with cameras with different dimensions and light that we don't understand as humans. Maybe that's why things appear. Just a theory.
Yeah.
Maybe because normally they move so quickly that we don't see them, yet that split second that they're caught on camera, there's still enough to be caught. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
we may not have been able to see them, but that split second we caught them on film.
Do you know how they say you guys have been talking about EVPs and there's certain things that the human ear can't
Yeah,
hear, certain things that the eye can't see in terms of vibrations and certain colors in the spectrum and certain sounds. Are there any special cameras that see more of a spectrum than the human eye? Because I know the EVP kind of does that, right?
Yeah, there's full spectrum cameras that a lot of investigators use.
Oh, really?
We don't get a whole lot of video evidence or, photography evidence. It's our money's in our EVPs because EVPs, if the client is involved and if your other team members are involved, they know exactly what went on in that room and what was said in that room. Whereas a picture, if I were to post a picture right now and I caught something or I think I caught something, it would be shredded to pieces within 10 minutes online.
But I mean no disrespect, but I got emails that shredded your EVPs before, and the only reason why I'll say is sometimes it's harder and probably more frustrating. Sometimes people have to see something as well for them to be.
Right.
Yeah, we
a
talked
part
But they
of that.
saw it
being
with their
visceral.
eyes.
Yeah.
That's different than if I were to say, oh, March 2016, I took this picture. They're going to say, oh, you used the computer and you generated this and you manipulated that and things like that. But the only other thing I want to say about my EVPs is they come straight from the recorder. I do not use Audacity. I do not use any program whatsoever to alter them. They are 100% what's on the recorder. I never alter them. I don't change the background noise. I don't bring this up, bring that down. I do not touch them. That's exactly how they come from the recorder.
Very interesting. No, I look. I like to talk about both sides of it because I believe you, and I talked to a lot of people over the weekend. We had a couple events over the weekend. Met some of the nicest, awesomest people that are so into this podcast and into the things that we're talking about. And I would say 95% of the audience believes you. I like to also, like our skeptic over here, and we have two skeptics really. Denny's might be more of a skeptic.
Skeptic's a tough word.
Unless we're talking about shape-shifting into a kangaroo or something. But yeah, I like to break it down now to say, all right, let's talk about the things, how it could be fake. Just to shut the naysayers up is all. The one thing I did want to talk about was near-death awareness. Not experience, but awareness. Do you guys know what that is?
No, but I feel like Tupac had that.
Possibly.
Is it like what, a premonition of your own death?
Well, okay, for example, it would be you have a loved one that's aging and they're about to die. They are in that area of they're probably not going to be around the next week or two, and they start having full-on detailed conversations with other loved ones. And we're talking detailed stuff. Now, I know what the naysayers will say. That's just the brain going because you're older. But some people do believe when you are getting closer to death, when the Grim Reaper is there, you start to lock in on something. You start to really zone in, and you start to get messages from people who are saying, come on over to the other side. It's going to be okay. Your loved ones start to come through. What do you guys think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, I was actually taught several years ago, I was asked if I would teach a course over at, back then it was PBCC, to the nursing staff about these people who were getting ready to pass and what happens to them. I know a lot of times I will see the people who come to take that person to the other side. And, like I'll say, well, there's an older gentleman and this person. And then the one that I'm reading for says, oh, that sounds just like my grandmother and such that came to get this person. So I do think that when we get ready to pass, there are people there. I had a former relative who thought she saw Jesus at the back door. She was fully lucid. There was nothing wrong with her mind at that time. And she said, don't you see him? He's beautiful. He's at the back door. She says, don't you see that beautiful light? He's standing there. He's coming for me soon. So I completely believe
Denny's
in those.
skeptic thoughts.
Well, all right, I could see that. If you're near your death, then that would make sense that you would start thinking about the afterlife or moving to the next step. So I could definitely see that.
But do you think that's because you already know you're coming to the finish line and that you may be projecting what you want out there?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, and even if you're not like religious, I'm sure people think of different things as that time comes. But I would imagine a lot of it's memories and
Just a medical reason behind that?
yeah. I mean, you're probably so much stuff's going through your mind because it's funny enough. You never ever trained for your death. We train for everything else in life, but not really for like the actual passing. So everybody's going to try to deal with that however they think's best to get through it.
There's a meditation practice, actually, dying while you're alive. And it's actually where you sit down and you are, George Harrison was big on this. It's to get you ready for when you are about to die, when you're about to leave your body. You're supposed to get quiet and just go ahead and let your soul go. But there's a practice. It's called, dying while you're alive. Google that. Look into that. That's a real meditation practice.
I think it gave me anxiety because I've had to, like when I got my wisdom teeth taken out, and you get into what's it called?
Yeah, you get the
anesthesia.
Yeah.
And that starts to come over, and you feel you're losing control of you going.
That's what I'd
going
imagine
under.
you'd feel like.
Like I sometimes get a little I got a little anxiety going into that.
Well, yeah.
kind of,
Yeah, I hate
phase,
the
like,
anesthesia. It's terrible.
Anesthesia's
I've had
the
so much
worst.
of it, too. It freaks me out every time.
The one thing that kind of was amazing to me was that it's kind of maybe along the lines of what you were talking about, and I thought it was amazing. Like even as a skeptic, I thought it was pretty touching in a way. But my grandfather got colon cancer. They caught it late, and they did some chemo, and it wasn't. They probably shouldn't even done chemo because it was caught late enough, whatever. And my great grandma was still his mother was still alive, and she was like a lady that was like, for her age, was like an amazing health, no problems, never even got the flu type lady. And she always said she never wants to outlive her son. And so my grandfather at a certain point turned really bad, and he died unexpectedly, or a lot quicker than we had all expected. So my aunt and my father were debating how they were going to tell her because they knew it was going to just absolutely crush her.
For sure.
Absolutely crush her. So they're making funeral arrangements. They were going to go over to her house and tell her, and they got a phone call that she'd passed away.
You hear this story
So
all
they
the
never had to
time.
tell her, and it's like almost like she got her wish.
I feel like that. I think some people can die of a broken heart. I
For
do.
sure.
I can't explain the medical stuff behind it, but
Well, like Johnny Cash, when his wife, I forget who passed first, but the other one died. I think she passed. June Carter Cash died, and then he just passed just a few
Yeah.
months after that.
Yep.
yeah, it's like your spirit and your heart just doesn't.
Well,
Like,
it's you giving up.
yeah, I think there is something behind all that.
Yeah.
To go back a little bit about people doing the near-death awareness, I also feel like sometimes people who know they're about to pass away, and no one else knows, but I feel like they might know, and maybe they don't know completely what it is. For example, when my mom passed away out of the blue, and forgive me, I don't think I've told this story before, but she had some, the issues with some people in the family at the time, and there was she wasn't at peace with everybody. And 2 days before she died, she called everybody in the family and made complete peace with everyone. And I remember everyone saying, Mom, was calling everybody, making peace. And then she had her heart attack and died, not that night. In my opinion, she died the night she had the heart attack. But, I felt like it was weird because it was like she sensed something was about to happen and she
Right.
wanted to make peace with that. What do you guys think about that? Is that a coincidence, or is that something my mom might have felt?
I think it was an intuitive, message that she received, and she acted on it. Fortunately, she acted on it.
Yes.
A lot of us get messages, and we just don't act on it. We blow them off.
I completely agree with that. And I think you don't have to get sick or have a heart attack to call everybody in your life to tell them that you love them. I mean, as corny as that sounds, They will be gone eventually. You got to do it. Make sure you're calling your family and your friend. Tell people you love them. That means something to you.
Totally. I got a little bit more emo than I typically did. I did an Instagram post because Linkin Park was one of my favorite bands. You know, and outwardly, like, you look at a guy like, you know, Chester and be like, his life is perfect. Like, he's at the epitome on the top of the mountain of success, right? For all the way that we look at our society.
For the Western world,
For the
sure.
Western world, right?
Yeah.
And just an amazing human being. Like, he's a big animal advocate, you know, all this stuff. And then to a year to the day, he kills himself the exact same way that
his mentor
did.
Yeah.
You know, wrote an open letter about it. And, you know, it's just, you know, whether it's your, sometimes even your friends, you'd be like, hey, man, are you cool? Like, everything good? Like, you know, you need to, like, deep down and, like, care about your family and your friends and, you know, just care a little bit more.
Because, I mean, sometimes you really don't know if someone's struggling with some shit, and it really could literally just take someone being cool to you to kind of get them out of a funk. I know that's how I am.
Yeah.
If I'm in a depressed or sad mood, it takes one little bit of a, you know, a rally to me to get back up and go, all right, things are not bad, man.
Yeah.
Things are cool. That's an important thing to do with all your friends and loved ones.
Yeah, it really goes a long way. And sometimes, like, you know, you get a little, like, you're like, well, you don't say thank you enough.
For
sometimes.
sure.
And sometimes, like, just doing that, like, people are like, wow, like, you know, like, people just reaching out to me on my birthday, like, today, like, people, like, that I don't talk to so much, and they, like, send me a nice text message. Like, it means a lot.
It does mean a lot. To be cared for and to have people
Yeah.
care about you is I mean, I think that's why there are problems sometimes. When you see people go on these violent rants, I sometimes just feel like their soul is so lost and gone and broke, and I don't think they think they're worthy of love. I think people get into that self, you know, deprecating world to where it's so low and the depression so blue they can't get out of that.
Yeah.
Is there stuff that you do on a spiritual level, Vicky, if you are down and out? I think I might have asked you this before, but just in case someone's
I
missed
just
it.
yeah, it was when we were talking about nature and stuff. I just try to go outside.
Nature.
And the sun. I mean, it just makes all the difference. Or just step away from my situation. Because I'm like, I'm really low energy today. Like, really, something happened yesterday. I can't talk about it, but I question humanity. I question the difference between doing what's right and what's wrong. It doesn't do you any good, and it's just so later on today I'm going to have to find something to do that's going to get me out of this funk.
Well, if you look at just the history of people who are, I mean, and I'm talking people who are spiritual next level. Mother Teresa, she lived a very troubled life internally. She struggled, you know, she was always out there helping the poor and the needy, but even herself had doubts about, you know,
Oh, yeah.
what happens to when I die? What's all this for? Why is there so much disease and hunger? So I think that's a common, or not common, but I think that's a human just part of being a person. I think you're gonna have some of those moments.
And it's even worse if you're empathic. Because
Yes.
you take on, and I thought I was pretty good at deflecting it, but I realized this week I've been taking on a lot of other people's stuff lately.
Well, especially with this podcast, you got to slow down a little bit, you know? You might have to. All of a sudden, you're going to be like the woman from, what's that one, The Conjuring. You're going to have all these demons and ghosts visiting.
Cataract eyes.
But that would be great for the podcast.
Yeah, I'll call Denny's to film it. Don't worry about it.
So I did break a rule that you told me to break, but I did it for the greater good of the podcast.
Okay.
I did. I talked with another psychic who told me that I needed to smudge my townhouse. You told me not to smudge my townhouse because there's been stuff going on in my house. I felt like there was definitely some energy in there. I didn't even bring this up on last week's podcast. I'm laying in bed, and I know that there is scientific ways to say how it happened, but it scared the shit out of me. I'm laying in bed, and my toilet goes off, just out of the blue. It flushes. Now, that is weird, but when you put everything else that's going on, I'm starting to hear the laughing again. I'm starting to hear, you asked me before the podcast, do I hear voices sometimes? I do. I honestly do. I know some people think I'm lying or crazy. I'm just telling you what I go through. I think I might have kicked up some spirit in my place.
What does smudging mean?
I'll let Vicky explain.
When
it.
you smudge, you basically go through your dwelling with, a lot of people use sage, which is, you know, a no-no.
Yeah.
And I say that because I realize that a lot of groups, a lot of people firmly believe in sage, but I've actually done experiments with it. I have done controlled experiments that prove, and I was telling you before the podcast that Bobby Joe.
Bobby Joe.
There's your shout out, Bobby Joe. I promised you. She's been struggling with some things in her house. So I said, we did one cleansing and that wasn't successful. I said, you know what? Are you willing to let us go ahead one more time just to confirm what we've known for 10 years, that this is not the proper thing to use? She said, sure, let's do it. We did. We smudged that house top to bottom, every corner, every nook and every cranny. Exactly 3 days later, all
Hell broke loose.
Yep.
When you smudge, do you just light the sage, or do you actually say
We do a blessing.
You do.
Yeah, we do a
that's,
blessing.
That's what I did
yeah.
too.
We go through every single room. You have to open if you're going to do that, they said that you need to make sure you get every nook and cranny. You open up every closet, every drawer, every possible place that anything could be, and then you let it sit there for a little while, and then you're going to open your windows, and that supposedly releases it.
Don't you sage too, Denny's?
I do sage every time I move into a new place.
Now that's the only thing that sage is good for.
'Cause it's
I
supposed
believe
to-
that sage is good for living residual human energy. Like if you had somebody who was like negative that lived in your apartment that's living, that it does help clear out that kind of energy. But if you have a spirit, number one, if you have a human spirit, it's going to actually damage them. And I believe that the damage occurs in those 3 days. Because it's kind of like you knock them out, so to speak.
Okay,
So
cool.
when they come back with a vengeance.
I smudged on Sunday. So what's today? Tuesday?
Tuesday.
When does all hell break
Tomorrow
loose?
when you're sleeping.
Yeah.
Didn't someone say you shouldn't use sage? You should use something else like rosemary or something.
I've heard
use-
that before too.
I use sweetgrass.
Oh, that's what you said.
Yeah. I
Where do you
use
get that? At the
sweetgrass.
ghost store? How do
No,
you-
same place you would get sage.
Okay.
They have them at the New Age stores. You can get it on Amazon. Everything's on Amazon.
I love those new age stores, but man, do they charge a
They're
ton.
expensive.
Hey, look at this rock that it glows. That'll be $900. What?
Yeah.
It wards off spirits. I don't know.
Or those
man.
big like quartz crystals that look awesome.
I bought so many of those crystals.
Like in
and,
the thousands.
and
Well,
then
what you do is go to one of those shops, you write down what you want, and then go on Amazon and get it for half the price.
No kidding.
I hear you. I like-
Amazon.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say, Dan?
I was gonna say I like to support the local business.
I know you do. Somebody did bring up. They wanted us to go in a little bit more. They believe in the reptilian race. Have we talked about the reptilian race, the lizard people?
The lizard people.
Very little, but they believe that, and this person's very serious, that politicians, people that are in power, are from another species, and that they are reptilian or lizard people, and that they're just pulling the strings. Denny's, you read up on this. Give us a little bit of an opinion.
So the theory, I mean, it's pretty old. It goes way back, but that there's a reptile race that stands about like 7.5 feet tall over humans, and what they do, I mean, I've seen two different like ways of doing this, I guess you could say, but the main theory is that it's to serve all of the universe. So they're here as more or less chaperones to watch the humans develop over the years, and so they do take the form of politicians. They're shapeshifters that live underground, but the reason they take the form of like influential people is that they try to influence things for the greater good. So like even though it seems like a bad idea in the time, or you're like, I can't believe that senator
You
said
break a
that.
few eggs, but it's all in the greater good.
Break a few eggs, but it's ultimately for the benefit of not only mankind, but universe kind, I guess you could say. And that's basically the theory. But then there's also the other side, and which is more common lately, is that they're bad and they're trying to keep humans enslaved, more or less. And that's kind of a newer theory.
And I believe the person that had sent me that email, he's talking about how we're already enslaved, man. We are already enslaved, and people don't even realize it. We're sheep.
Well, so there's like a couple authors, like you mentioned Bradbury last time. And then there's like H.P. Lovecraft, which they used to write these science fiction novels, and there's a bunch of lore born from all of these novels. And there was this guy, I believe it was Deke. He was the one who came up with the lizard theory, more or less, and it's kind of stemmed into an actual thing where something he originally thought and wrote a book about.
I can see Birthday Boy just rolling his eyes over here. There's no way you believe in the lizard species.
I think,
what-
I think of all the things we talked about on this podcast, this is the craziest.
You know what's funny?
More than shape-shifting?
Well, I pulled up some stats because I was looking down at the breakdown, and I found out that 90 million Americans, this is a study done, 90 Americans believe aliens existed. So this breaks down the percentages of what they actually think, and the lizard people controlling politics is only a 4%. So it's a pretty low stat on there.
Vicky looks disgusted as well.
I can go for a lot of things. The only thing I agree is that we are just sheep. I mean, we are controlled. I don't think it's by lizard people, but we are controlled by society.
How shocked are you find out that, I mean, we've been run by lizard people this whole time?
Oh,
You'd have to pick me up off the ground because that one, I can't go for that one.
Why is that so weird,
just
though?
can't.
I mean,
Like, how's that any weirder than anything else?
I see Denny's point because it's so weird what we think, you know, our own personal beliefs. Oh, because I'm over here thinking shape-shifting. What are you talking about? I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I'm over here also talking about how I think the government might also have weather control. So, and people think I'm crazy that. We'll get into weather control. I don't think we ever talked about weather control either, have we? All right, we'll talk about that. I know Beckett's going to have a lot to say about that.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. Why is lizard
that one any crazier?
crazier than angels
I
come
mean,
in?
I'm with you. 7.5 feet tall lizard's pretty wild. But at the same time, who's to say there's not? And we call them the lizard people for pop cultural reference. But I mean, they have a society and name. There's old scriptures on this. But like, it's just why is that such a weird concept? Like, alien scales maybe looks like a lizard.
Okay, let's have this be a skeptic off because you are kind of saying lizard people are real. Beckett doesn't think it. Beckett, give me the counter.
There's just no science that, or any shred of anything that is ever, like, you remember how we talked about vibrations, and I can get there, like, you know, there's certain things you can test for certain vibrations that we can't see, certain colors, things, dogs can hear certain whistles, like there's certain sciences that can bridge a very out there theory. But when you have a theory that there's no bridge for me to cross to get there, like even on it's
But they're
tough.
shapeshifters.
All right, we've jumped the lizard with the lizard man talk.
You've jumped the lizard, I gotcha.
That's not good. Have you guys? Oh, the one thing I am getting a lot of comments on, I was talking to you before the podcast, was people who want to develop their psychic abilities. Can somebody who has no psychic ability whatsoever, can they get better at that? Can everybody practice and hone?
Well, I think everybody does have ability. It's just a matter of bringing it to the forefront. So, yes, I think everybody has the ability.
What would Beckett have to do to get to a next level psychic, in your opinion?
Well, he'd have to have some experiences, I think, that he couldn't explain at first. And then that would put him in the mindset to be able
Develop
to do.
some interest.
Yes. Yeah, develop an interest in it, which I think he is. I think he's
Oh, yeah.
developing more.
Oh,
of an
yeah.
He's a
interest.
psychic at heart. Oh, yeah.
So it's just a matter of exposure and trying. And some of the things, it's really simple. I personally have never meditated a day in my life. There's no way I could do it. I don't necessarily believe in it, but that's from the paranormal investigator side of me.
See, I so believe in meditation, and I believe that it gives such a benefit to a person just to get their head in the right space. I'm not saying you're going to be able to levitate or anything like that, but I feel meditation, because everyone says that, I can't do it. Well, I can't, bench press 300 pounds because I haven't tried to do that and I haven't trained. You have to train to meditate, and it takes at least, I would say, 3 months to even remotely get close to being zoned in on that.
Yeah.
I'm just one of those lucky ones. I've never had to do anything like that.
Yeah.
For it to happen, it just happened.
That's awesome.
But it happened through exposure. It happened through me being verbal about what I was feeling and what I thought I was seeing. And I said before on a podcast, it sounded, at first I'd be like, this sounds silly, but, and then I would say whatever it was that I saw or I heard. And by doing that, eventually I was able to solidify the fact that I was experiencing these things. And over again, when you do something consistently over and over again, that's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
And then you develop it just like you do a muscle by
So-
practice and doing it over and over again.
You talked about working with me, and if someone is out there that wants to develop, what are some of these things that what would be what you would do with me to get me to be better?
We start with, and Bobby Joe and I we do
Bobby
this.
Joe.
Bobby
Oh,
Joe.
no,
She gets
shout-
two shouts
shout
out. Okay. We do this ourselves. Like if we've gone to an investigation, we play the 30-second game. And
Let's
one
do
of
it
us,
right now. Let's play a
Okay.
30-second game
Well, we
right
have
now.
to have something that we experience together, though. But
We
the way
have.
we do it, okay. Let's go back to your first apartment, the first
Okay.
one that I went to.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And that was the most haunted one.
Yes. So the rules of this game is you only have just a couple seconds to answer. It has to literally be the first thing that comes off the top of your head.
Got ya.
And if you don't answer fast enough, I go, we can't take it because you've had time to
Love
think
it.
to think it. Okay.
Run it.
All right. That first apartment, go back and think. Male or female?
Female.
Evil or good?
Both.
Okay. Were they summoned or were they already there?
Summoned.
Okay. See, that's the way it works.
How did I do?
I actually think you were pretty correct in the way you answered.
Yeah, working it out.
Not trying to suck up to the host, but I think
I didn't know we had two mediums on this show.
No, I am really getting into this. Right, I've been talking about. I've been reading. I am showing a general interest of trying to go full gorilla with at least exploring the possibility. I'm not saying that I'm going to be, but I would like to at least try.
But see, that's one of the things that we do. That's how we practice. Is we go over places where we've been. We ask each other questions. You only have a certain amount of time because we want it to be intuitive. We don't want our brain involved. Pretty much. We want what's the first thing that comes off.
I
of
was
our
just
tongue.
reacting on what I felt.
Exactly, and you played the game well. By the way,
To
you
use
did.
to use a Marvel quote, though, I think it's a Marvel quote. With great power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
Oh, I'm
That's a Spider-Man quote.
I'm gonna blow it. No, I'm opening up a door that I do. It's gonna be terrible for me.
And then what you could do is since there's different type of abilities, there's different tests. Like I could give you pictures, and you can start. I have to know, obviously, it had to be a picture that I know something about. You tell me something about the picture. I would start giving you objects that I knew who owned the objects. You start telling me what you pick up about. It's actually really simple, and you find out where your gifts are.
This is just my game. I love it. I love it. We're gonna
That's
start.
easy.
We're gonna
Okay.
start doing it.
right.
I'm in official psychic training right now.
Nice.
Nice.
So I'm like psychic light is kind of like I'm like I'm your understudy.
You have definite potential.
Nice.
Definite.
Does Denny's?
I think Denny's would explain most of his intuition away.
I would rationalize with myself,
Yes.
probably.
And I do that too, actually. I do it, and I get yelled at a lot because I do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because instead of me, this is my first impression, this is what I think, and then I overthink it, and then I find the logical explanation. And I'm not talking about investigations because that is my goal is logical, but I'm talking about when I'm reading and I'm doing something psychic. I explain a lot of it away myself. I am my own worst enemy when it comes to that.
Yeah, I usually will think out both sides.
Yep.
Just like we were talking lizards earlier. You know, I was only playing devil's advocate there. So I like to think of it from both angles and then kind of decide which one I think personally. And that can change based
Well,
on what people say, too,
I
if I
think-
hear something.
Don't you think in life you have to probably go with intuition and gut, but also being rational? You have to kind of use your brain and your heart.
Right.
Isn't that when you're working at your best, when you got both of those things working?
Totally.
Oh, and the other thing we could do is I could walk you through an out-of-body experience as well.
Oh,
Yeah, all
that's right up his alley.
Denny's has one every day after work, every day before work.
Outside of work experience.
Someone wants to know too, and we might have touched on this a little bit, but can your loved ones see you when when they pass along? Do they see everything? For example, some guy
God, I hope not.
got a little crass. He
A
wanted to
lot of
know,
things I
yeah,
like him turn a blind eye to.
when he's having solo time by himself. Is his dead mother watching? Are ghosts watching you? Get busy, play with yourself, poop, do all the stuff that you are embarrassed to do. I actually get that question a lot.
I think it depends on the spirit. If your mother's crossed, no, I don't think she's going to if she wouldn't have violated your privacy when she was here, she's not going to violate it now.
Okay, but if you're a peeping Tom,
If you're a peeping Tom, yeah, then you're probably watching.
That's
you're still doing.
creepy.
You retain your personality on the other side.
do you curb your whatever you do if you know a spirit's watching everything you do, or do you just say, "Look, I just got to live my life"?
Just gotta live my life.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like thinking about all the bugs that are around you at all time. If you don't think about it, it doesn't bother you. But in your walls, there's so many.
you're right. So but they can see you, in your opinion.
They can if it's a time that they want to.
Why is it though that it's always done in messages, like these cryptic messages? How come ghosts just don't? Hey, I'm here. Hey, Beckett. Hey, how's it going? You need to do this. You need to do this. I can foresee this. How come it's not like that?
I don't know what the rules are on the other side. I think part of the problem is the people on this side. I think they probably have more ability than we're willing to see. And I think that's part of the issue is that we're stopping the communication, and there's also rules on the other side.
Well,
Somebody doesn't want us to have all the answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I also think it's important. A lot of people, they hear the word medium, but they don't actually think what medium means. Like, medium means a way to communicate, right?
Yeah.
Like, whether that's a phone or
however you're
talking to
doing it.
voice or whatever. And that's just a way that, the other side is, that's why they're called mediums, right? And communicating.
For
So-
sure.
But, you could say the same thing about religion. Like, God's this all-powerful being. Like, why does he gotta like have us all fight about it? You know?
Well, I mean, and then why does everything have to be so cryptic? Why does it have to be? I mean, another thing I wanted to talk about where people see signs in things. For everyone knows the woman who sees Jesus' face in her toast.
There was one just recently in the tree.
Yeah, Mother Teresa was in a tree. It actually looked a lot like Mother Teresa.
Looked a lot like her.
But you being the psychic on the show, you being the skeptics, you guys, what are your guys' thoughts on? Can you get a message through items like that? Are you off on that one, or do you think that might be a message?
A message from the other side?
Yeah. Well, okay. For example, you go home and there is a stain from the rain on your roof, and it resembles the face of your grandfather. Is that coincidence for you? And you're looking at what you want to find, or do you think that's a message?
I think that I would if I was a betting man and I had to put money on it, I probably wouldn't place money on it. But like I've talked about before, I would always err on the side of like, if I feel like there's a message to not do something or to do something, I'm like, okay, I'll not do that. So I have like superstitious. I'm not super superstitious, but like my mom always said, don't put your hat on the bed. That's how Abraham Lincoln died, and it's like bad luck. So I'm like, okay. I'm not gonna put my hat on the bed. So just in case, like I'll heed the warning of whatever someone's trying to maybe tell me for sure.
Go ahead.
I was just listening.
Well, I believe one of the ones I believe in is the red cardinal. The red cardinal is when
you do see that a lot.
When you are sad, or you're in a time of you're a little low with your spirits, or maybe you're thinking about your loved one that had passed on. A red cardinal will appear to let you know that loved one is next to you. They're there. They're giving you a message. And I never believed in that. And then my dad told me about that. And then every time, and it was a connection with my mother. And I've had several weird experiences with red cardinals. Now, I don't have red cardinals where I live. I rarely ever see a red cardinal. And when I do, I swear to you, 9 out of 10 times, it's when I've been talking about my mother or a story about that. Vicky, you seem to not believe in this kind of stuff.
No, I mean, I have a red cardinal that lives in my yard, so and a lot of people believe butterflies, carry messages, and, you'll be walking in the grass and there's a bunch of butterflies. Well, I have a lot of plants that attract butterflies. I have a red cardinal that lives in my yard. But the important thing is that if the person who's missing their loved one, if it's a coincidence, if it's really them, it doesn't matter. It makes you feel good when you see that red cardinal.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some over the top experience with the red cardinal where I was on the phone talking to my sister about we're both talking about my mom, and we're talking about the power of the red cardinal. And I swear to you, as I'm talking, a red cardinal literally flies on the chair right next to me. I ain't seen a red cardinal, and hell, since a Cardinals game, I haven't seen a red cardinal. So I thought that was weird, but was I only seen the red cardinal because my dad told me those stories? I started having a connection. Was I looking for a red cardinal?
Yeah.
But I did find that weird. I'm talking about red cardinal to my sister, and one literally on the chair right in front of me perches and is like looking at me.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's over the top. That's crazy. Now it could be coincidence, but like you just said, I'm going to bed thinking, all right, that's a message.
And just like a lot of these things where people think they see, a face and this and this and the other, that's because your brain wants you to. Look at those pictures where it's actually two different things in the same picture. Our brain goes to one particular image first, and then we have to concentrate. We get to the other one. So I think it's just that. I think that we want to see certain things. I call it just matrixing. I mean, we're just purposely trying to see what we want to see in something. To me, it looks like an ink block. It doesn't look like a butterfly or a bowl or anything like that. It's a blob of ink. I'm very concrete when it comes to that. I have no matrixing ability at all.
Gotcha. So what about you, Beckett? Where are you with the red cardinal stuff like that?
Stuff like that I find interesting because I don't believe in life is predestined. But I also have had situations, and I think I've qualified this as I've gotten. I think when I was early, I was always superstitious because of baseball. As when I was young, I was like, things you make them happen or they don't happen. Bird poop isn't lucky on your car. It's something someone made up a long time ago to make them feel better that they had bird poop under their car.
No, I can level with that.
But as I get older, I can say that I've had experiences that sometimes, because there's always an explanation of coincidence, right? Coincidence happen. That's why it's called coincidence. But sometimes things happen that are just almost way too coincidental to be coincidence.
I agree.
And it's like, that's like almost like gives me goosebumps. It's so crazy how that all happened.
And it's weird sometimes when those moments happen where you're like, well, is that a coincidence, or that was just weird how it all lined up? But they're not of any giant big significance. But it was a weird experience. I was telling Vicky, I go, I'll have premonitions about something, but it means nothing about anything in the world. And you had a great explanation. You know, it may seem insignificant to me, but maybe there's a reason why that stuff happens.
Right. If you had something, a big, like, imminent disaster for the world, nobody would believe you. So you couldn't really do anything good with that premonition. But if you had a friend, if you dreamed something about Denny's that was going to happen and you were able to warn him, that little tiny thing that you thought was a little more insignificant than saving the world, no, it was important to Denny's. And that's something you could do.
And that little bit of good is moving forward.
Yes.
And if everybody did that,
Right.
that's how it all would kind of work.
Right, because we can't start, we have to crawl, and then we have to walk, and then we have to run. We can't just get up and start running because we're going to fall on our face. So having something big and trying to save the world isn't going to work, most likely. But saving Denny's, one premonition at a time, is going to show some good. It's going to make progress.
Denny's, thoughts on this whole subject matter?
Well, with the premonitions, I mean, I could see having a premonition. Like you said, some of them don't mean anything.
Yeah.
That could be because it has nothing to do with you, like Vicky was saying. Like, it's outside of, like, saving the world. Or you see a girl trip and lose something. It could be anywhere in the world. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way you could ever get her that message. So you might be having premonitions just about everything, and then nothing's pertained to you directly.
It's a good point, Denny's.
Do you get a lot of premonitions?
I'll get weird. I'll just get things to where I'll think about something and then it happens, but it'll be something that doesn't make, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, but that's how mine started. It started with little tiny things like I knew I was going to have a flat tire even though there was no reason to believe I was going to have a flat tire. And it starts with the little things, and then as you start paying attention to them, then it's going to grow into something bigger.
Okay, for example, maybe a year ago or so, a couple nights before, I had no idea about an interview that was about to happen. I had no idea. I had, not to be crass, but I had a sex dream about this girl that I had a crush on for, I mean, we're talking 20 years ago. I haven't seen her. I hadn't heard her. I had no idea. She could have been dead for all I knew. It was a very vivid dream. And literally, it was either it was the next day, she came in and she was on the microphone doing an interview for some shit that we had no idea that she was going to even be there. It was just, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I had no idea why she would be here. In fact, the last I had heard, she had moved away 15 years ago. So it was bizarre to have a dream like that and to have thoughts like that. And literally the next day, her come in, it just kind of blew me away. No, it means nothing. Why,
no, it was your spirit guides trying to tell you to dress up that day.
And
they
I
were
didn't.
trying to give you a heads up that she was coming in, and you just ignored them.
Okay, but something like that, though, you guys being skeptics, is that just merely just a horn dog dream, and I got lucky on that with the coincidence?
No. And like I said, I'm pretty big on the secret. If you think about something, you can definitely will it into.
So I made her come
But
here?
no. I'm thinking, like, I also talk about vibrations. You could be sensing her vibrations, and it made you think of her, and then, sure enough, she was here the next day.
It begs the question, what happened?
You know, nothing happened.
I didn't go say hi.
I
what's
know.
up?
Well, I think she was with somebody, so I didn't say anything. But it was weird. I'd never even talked about that on the regular air. In fact, I didn't really even think about that till we
So
started
you had
talking.
an affair in your dream.
Yeah, I think we're both still in high school at the time. In my dream, maybe, I don't know. But I just found that odd. I don't know.
That's cool.
So that's
though.
an ultra rare coincidence.
Couldn't explain it.
Cool.
I would like to hear the naysayers explain it. They love to explain shit. The
It's cool.
naysayers.
You know, I always go back to the science thing, but you know, you talk about like ancient Eastern medicines and like the kung fu arts.
Yeah.
And the way like the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies where he's like visualizing the stuff.
Oh,
and, like,
yeah.
I think I can get on board with that stuff. Like,
Kung Fu's awesome.
Yeah, and they've been around. I mean, obviously, those Eastern civilizations were babies in terms of
For sure.
how long they've been around and like with their science behind
They
meditation.
may know a lot more than we do.
Yeah, and like, you walk into a pharmacy when I was in China. You walk into a pharmacy, half of it's like a CVS, the other half of it's like all herbs.
Oh, yeah.
He's so well. He goes to China. We just go to Chinese buffets. That's what me and Denny do.
Well, that's why my theory that Asian people are the weirdest people, man, because they've been around for so long that they've done everything.
And you're Asian, so you can
I'm
say
Asian,
that.
yeah, I can
you
say
can
that.
say that.
And I'll speak for the entire people. And
I'll let you deal with those emails.
send them to Kevin. The,
Yeah, Kevin from the KVJ show loves getting hate
gets
email
so-
from the Weird or Whatever podcast. Just what he wants to do.
but they've been around so long, and then you go over to like Europe, and we're always considered prudes compared to the people across the pond over there in Europe. And I mean, I think it's just as it's moved across that people here have done so much. Like, now they got game shows where they're like eating slugs and shocking each other. It's insane. They're running out of stuff to do. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
That's pretty amazing.
I'll let you guys take this. I think Denny's just real stoned. The one thing I did want to say is we talked a little bit about doing a get together with people. And I think we're about ready to start talking about some sponsors for the podcast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, our numbers are doing well. And I do want once again thank everybody that I wish you guys were out there on Saturday at Double D's and at the Beer Fest because
Was it fun?
yeah, it was fun, but we had a lot of great people come up and say nice things about you, Ryan, and great things about you, Vicky, and you, Denny's, about the whole podcast and
Awesome.
just what's going on. So we really do appreciate everyone's feedback. I mean, everything on this list has been stuff that you guys are submitting. It just sometimes when breaking down the email, it takes a little bit too long. I'd rather get you guys' opinions on stuff than to break down the email. But yeah, we're about at that point. So.
Awesome. In that vein of becoming official, we finally got an Instagram page.
Could you give the information out?
Yeah, so it's Weird and Whatever is the handle, and I'm surprised that it wasn't taken already. And we just started loading up a couple posts, and what we're going to start doing is thanks for accommodating. We did it a day early because I have to leave tomorrow, California. And I meant to say, if anyone has anything weird for me to do while I'm in California, I'll be in Southern California than Northern. Let me know if there's anything I should check out or
Ghost
whatever.
stuff, yeah,
Ghost stuff,
and please
anything.
Instagram it, take pictures, all that stuff. I think we definitely need to go. We need to get to the next level now. I think we should start taking. Well, Vicky, you do a great job. You put a lot of great stuff on the Weird and Whatever. So, good job to Vicky.
Thank you.
And we talked about trying to be more consistent with how we do it. So every Wednesday, basically, right? Early afternoon.
Unless Beckett's got to go across the country, jet setting Beckett.
I got Southern and
Gotta go
Northern
to China.
California.
I gotta go to SoCal.
It's a summer.
I hear you, man. I'm just making fun of him, jealous.
So we'll have that link because sometimes if it's hard for you sometimes to find the link for the video stream on YouTube, that'll always be updated in the profile on Instagram.
Oh, very
so
cool.
Every Wednesday afternoon, it'll be up there it'll be easy for people to find. And if you want to send email, I don't know what you prefer, whether it's Twitter, email. But-
I check my Twitter a lot. My Twitter's kind of where I just it's easier for me to check. It's not that I don't check the other side. There's so many different forms that they make us do. Can I do Snapchat? Can I do Instagram?
Yeah.
Snapgram? All this crap.
Let's tell the audience, feel free to slide into the DM on Instagram.
Slide that
Love
DM.
it.
Yeah. You can slide that DM on my Twitter too now. Are you guys ready to get a little bit goofy, a little bit weird? Okay. Someone wanted us to, since we are the Weird and Whatever podcast, and I was actually kind of excited about this idea. They want everyone to go around the room and give their weirdest voice they could possibly do, and we have to vote who can do the weirdest.
Alrighty.
I just wanted to
my
see
God.
Vicky's look.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm gonna
so-
try to get real weird.
So just say a sentence and give us your best weird voice. I mean, we'll make this segment real quick. Let's start off with we won't put the pressure on Vicky.
Yeah.
I think
put the-
Denny's goes
Oh
first,
yeah,
I
Denny's
think.
got to go
Let's
first.
see.
Just give us a sentence. In fact, we all can say the same sentence.
What sentence is that?
You give us the sentence. To
Oh
say.
no! I'm just gonna ad lib here. I'm gonna freeform.
All
So
right.
you just want like the weirdest?
The weirdest voice you can do.
Why you little kids, you wanna play with my candy? Is that scary?
I don't know. I hope. Please tell me you did that in the camera because the visual on that was.
I was going to say, anyone that downloads the podcast needs to clip over for YouTube to watch that.
I knew you were going to break into that voice too. It's like your evil voice. I see what you were doing.
It's my go-to evil
And
voice.
were you asking for candy? Is that what you're doing?
Kids and candy.
Oh,
I was
that's-
trying to get real creepy.
That's not horrifying.
Oh, my.
All right, let's get you over with Vicky. Or you know what? You'll go last because I feel
Okay,
like there's a lot of
yeah.
pressure. Becca, what do you got?
My precious, Winnie just wants to be your friend.
Not
You're
bad.
good.
That's pretty good.
That is good. That is
All right,
good.
my turn.
I'm going to cut off your head and eat your veins.
You're pretty good.
The content that you guys pick is even funnier than it's even funnier than the voice.
I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying crazy shit. All right, Vicky. It's
See, I can't do anything like that, but okay.
look. Even if it sucks,
Okay,
you're gonna
yeah,
get
well, it's gonna suck.
You're gonna get credit from the people for just even
Okay,
trying.
for even trying. Okay. There's somebody at school that likes when I do this. Jason, do you want to come play with me?
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
That one is
All
creepy.
right,
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
Good stuff.
That's like Stephen King stuff right
That
there.
is, yeah, little kids talking like this and whispering and saying like them being in control. I don't like that.
See, that stuff doesn't scare me because I'm like, why would ghosts do that? Like, why is there a little girl running around just talking all creepy?
Well, if
It may not be a little girl.
yeah.
It's a guy pretending. Is it getting Craigslist?
Well, you
Could be demonic,
that can
pretending to
happen
be
with
a child.
with Ghost, right? Where you can see a little girl in there, and it's actually
Like the one that plays with toys by your bed. That's probably what she sounds like.
it better be just a little girl and not what Denny's. I hope she doesn't turn into.
Come here.
I don't even remember what voice I did.
yeah.
Well, that was a lot of fun.
That was fun.
We gotta do some more weird stuff like that. It's great. Denny's, yes. Tell me a little bit about the Wendigo.
Oh, the Wendigo.
The Wendigo.
You've probably heard of these, Vicky, right? So, I mean,
Have you heard of these?
Yeah, because you told me last week. So I cheated.
Okay,
We didn't touch on it last week,
Okay,
though.
yeah, gotcha. Because I didn't even know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, well, so it comes from the Native Americans, but essentially it's a person. You'll be in a group, and I guess the easiest way to rationalize it is like cabin fever. But you'll be in an outing or somewhere in the forest, and it's an evil entity that enters your body, kind of like a possession case with demons and whatnot. But essentially, it makes you aggressive, irritable, irrational,
Cannibalistic.
cannibalistic in the extreme cases.
We've had some stories in the news about that. I mean, even here in South Florida, horrible stories. We don't have to go into all the details, but you
It's
know,
a bath salts thing, though, right?
what was the bath salts thing? There was something up north in the Tequesta area.
The Tequesta area one was
that it-
weird because they didn't find drugs in his system.
Well, that's what you wonder. Is it psychological problems, or is there something taking over their spirit? Because you've seen it before, where someone goes, "I don't know what happened. It just took over me." We look at that as, okay, that's a bunch of bullshit. You know what you were doing. Is there any truth to where something can take over you, you not realize it, then you come to and go, "What have I done?"
You had to have some deep psychological issues for that to happen.
You don't think there's no way that that's a possession case of some?
So what if we were chilling with you right here, and all of a sudden you grabbed a knife and like stabbed me in the leg? That would be so out of character for you, and then you snapped out of it. Like, what did I just do?
I would go check myself into some hospital.
But you go there.
I would be like, I have something wrong with
They
me.
go there and they go, dude, you're of normal intelligence. I have no idea what happened.
You're in
What's-
great shape for 35.
You have great hair. What the hell is this? You're a jet set.
You're just
son of a
awesome,
bitch.
man.
You look like a guy that goes to China a lot. Yeah, but the medical community says there's nothing wrong. It's kind of like when I did that seance at the Lakewood Playhouse. The dog that we brought was shitting blood completely. I mean, it was getting sick. It was shaking. Our producer at the time took the dog right away to the emergency vet at 12 o'clock at night. The dog stopped pooping. This was during the seance. The dog was shitting and pooping, and blood was pooping blood during the seance. Took her to the doctor, and they're like, "There's nothing wrong with this dog. This dog's fine." Is it kind of like that?
Wendigo,
Maybe,
man.
but like I said, like my theme, I would always err on the side of caution. Like I would call Vicky, talk to her about it. I'd go get more tests. I'd fly to China, and I'd go talk to him about some herbs. That would freak me the hell out.
I do think if I was really sick, I think I would try herb stuff out.
I tried everything.
Yeah,
for
I would
sure.
try it all out. I think.
Why not?
I've seen people like try to fault people for that. It's like,
No.
go screw yourself. If you were dying, you would do anything in your power to get yourself healthy.
Yeah.
Put a rock on my face.
Yeah. I was gonna bring something up, and it's a little controversial, but
Oh
you know,
boy.
it kind of
All right, Kevin, these emails go to you.
it kind of dovetails as to what you opened it with, and I was curious, when people have assisted suicide, because that is something that's being talked about in politics. Some states have it legal and saying it's the compassionate thing to do, and I've always thought it's weird that we feel like it's the compassionate things to do for our animals, but then we won't let our loved ones die in dignity. And I'm wondering, I guess my question is, because some people will say in the religion it's one of the mortal sins is to commit suicide. So that said, do they think I guess part of it is a religion question in the sense that there's that last moments of life, like we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast, that week leading in terms of how the passing is.
My personal opinion on that is I don't think anyone ever has the right to tell somebody how they want to go out. Right. Whether it's something you may not agree with, you don't know what's behind those eyes and what's behind in a brain. You have no idea what someone is struggling with. Someone could look so happy and they could be, struggling with leukemia. Like they could really have a terrible way of living.
Right.
And I don't feel comfortable. If Denny's told me, Bird, if it gets bad and I tell you I want to go, please make sure I go and I do it in peace, I would honor those wishes because that's what he wants. If that's what I want and I knew that in my heart, I would not want anybody to ever tell me what is right or wrong. I think that's something that you have to kind of go on your own spiritual journey or whatever kind of journey you're on. And I think that's up to you.
Right.
Now, I get that a lot of people aren't going to agree with that and support that, but you don't know what people are going through sometimes. That's my personal opinion. Doesn't make it right, but that's how I feel.
And how about a spiritual side with the soul, kind of like you were talking about earlier? Do you think that you have those kind of people have a different premonition? Because it's one thing to die in a car accident. It's one thing to have something that you didn't know a heart attack was coming per se, but you've written a letter, you've set it up to like happen, and like so there's a lot more. I don't know if premonition is the right word, but you like know this is coming. Like
you know it's coming, and you're at peace with it. And now you're just possibly sick because a lot of times people want that because they're in pain. They're in physical pain. And the way I look at it is, whoever I believe in or whatever I believe in spiritually, when I get to that other side, if that's where I'm going, they're going to understand that, and they're going to be compassionate.
Right.
That's, again, my personal opinion.
And this part's more of a Vicky question, but that person's controlling, in essence, the passing. And don't you think that kind of changes the dynamic when that person, like the person that's passing, is controlling the passing? Like they're causing, at the very least, the passing?
I'm going to get some hate mail on this, but
that's a good thing. Seriously, the whole idea of everyone loving everything we said will never be successful.
But it piggybacks on what you say. I think that if you're in such a condition that you have to plan your own death because you cannot take being here anymore because of the mental or physical pain, I think when you get to the other side, that person, whoever you believe in, knows what you were going through and understands your decision, and I don't think it's going to, in the long run, affect what happens to you on the other side.
I just think it's easy for people to judge that are not going through something.
Right.
Someone that's 28 years old, that's had a great life. No one in their life has died. They've only done A, B, and C their entire life. They have not gone through any pain or struggle. For them to sit back and say, that's wrong. That's wrong. I'm over here saying I don't know what's right or wrong. I really don't. I'm just going on what I feel.
Right.
What feels right to me. But it's a dangerous thing to say. That's wrong. That's wrong. When you have not gone through any of that shit, you don't. If you've never lost a loved one, you don't know what that stuff's like.
Yeah.
You can sympathize or you can empathize, whatever the whole thing. Where you can feel bad for them, but you don't know what they've gone through.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like for me. I've never gone through a terminal disease.
Right.
That's going to be heavy shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would never judge somebody on something like that. I'll get hate email too, Vicky. Don't worry. But I've been doing this for a while. I get a lot of hate email.
Yeah, it was a little off topic, but I just wanted to. The Chester thing in Lincoln Park made me think a lot about it, and not just from the political standpoint, but more of like on the spiritual side and like how that crosses.
I think that without a doubt falls into the realm of what we talk about. I do want to hear your opinion on that, Denny's.
On
Just what Ryan brought up. I mean, what's your opinion on someone that is ailing?
assisting somebody into the next. Well, I mean, technically anyone on life support, and when they decide to pull the plug, I mean, they're essentially making the same decision for that person.
A man
So,
of
I mean, it
semantics
happens-
over here. I like it, Denny.
It
It's very
happens
nice.
all the time. So, but I mean, I don't know. Like you said, I feel like anyone has a wish ongoing. We should try to
So if I came
help
to,
them.
if I came to
Whatever
you,
it was, it
you'd
could
be
be
like,
something
Bird
crazy.
he wants lights out. And I am not talking about like suicide. You're talking about assisted suicide when someone's in the hospital or something like that, and they want
Die
lights
in
out.
dignity.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I look back, I know I bring up my mom a lot, but my mom was on her deathbed for a week. Every single day I had to go into the hospital and find out her liver shut down.
Right.
Her lungs are shutting down. Her kid every single day was less
The
dignity.
quality of life
Then
going
you know
down.
those other things that started to happen to her body that
Yeah.
dignity started to be lost. I think you have to step in sometimes.
Right.
I know if my mom was there, she'd have said, "Jay Bud, pull the plug." I know she would have said that.
Well, so as far as suicide goes, I mean, Christianity is pretty much against it. But if you look at like Japanese culture, I mean, people they do a suicide to
the samurai
spare their
warriors.
families. If they're a burden, they'll go out and do it themselves.
And
if you look at the Islamic as well, I mean,
And I am anxious to hear anybody with a conflicting opinion that does not agree with anything that's been said. I mean, that's awesome. I want to hear the reasons why you should never do that.
Right,
that would
right.
be interesting to hear as well.
Definitely.
What we got on time? We're going to go in an hour. You guys want to go another 30 minutes?
Whatever you
I'm
guys
just
want.
kidding. You know, death is a good place to stop. Real uplifting place.
Usually ends it.
keep them high. Yeah.
You go from weird voices to, oh man, assisted suicide.
Yeah.
No, I think it's actually very much in the realm of what we talk about because you're coming from a spiritual place.
And that's, I mean, that's a super polarizing
Yeah,
topic, man.
it's
I
a
mean,
high
You
opinion.
got people on both sides of that one.
Yeah.
I love it. Was that all from the one? Did that stem from the Wendigo conversation?
Well, the Wendigo, which was a great one, by the way, topic I brought, and that did transition into your Beckett.
I love it. Well, let's go ahead and end this baby. We have Corey Feldman. We got to go see.
Yeah. Well, we got I got some homework. I'll save it for next week.
What is your homework, real quick?
Nah, you don't gotta listen to my homework.
Just at least tease us with the homework. Just give us the
well,
topic.
so I brought two topics I thought was cool. Did you guys hear about Salvador Dali's body being dug up? Oh, well, then we'll save it
We'll
for
definitely
next
delve
week.
into that next week. Yes.
And then I was gonna see what you guys' takes were on sex robots. You were talking AI last time and worry, and they're adding AI to these sex robots now in an attempt to hopefully
Vicky looks nervous.
thwart human trafficking. So
Okay, all right, I hear you. Well, we will delve into sex robots. And
Wait, so it's like a sophisticated sex doll?
yeah, it's a very sophisticated sex
at
doll,
that.
and they're trying
It's
to.
amazing.
L.A. over here is perked up a bit.
My only
This is a better
concern.
topic at the podcast on. It's way more uplifting.
Well, they're super expensive, but my only knock is, what if you buy one of these and then you find a woman and you're like, darn, and you got to get rid of this thing?
You
How
gotta
do you?
you gotta
You
destroy
gotta
the
take it out in
robot.
the night, throw it in
Sell
a
it on
trash.
eBay.
But wouldn't your
Yeah.
wife want you to
Who's
be
gonna
doing
buy
that rather than cheating?
Okay, first of all, there's a couple conversations going on right here. You said who would buy a used sex robot? A lot of people would.
Yes.
Craigslist. In fact, there's
Especially if they're really expensive in the beginning.
yeah, and there's people that like to share stuff just
Oh,
with
yeah.
real people.
Think
I
about
mean,
it. People hire
VD.
hookers, so of course they'll use a used sex toy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, the vagina is like a self-cleaning organ. I feel like the the rubber pussy is not gonna be like that.
This is a much better ending than the stuff we were talking about before. Thank you for
Just think
bringing,
about it.
thank you for dropping that wisdom. He's a thinker. He makes you think.
Let that one sit. All right, should we wrap this up?
We gotta wrap it
That's
up.
what she said.
Mr. Beckett, plug your stuff, please.
My Instagram is Beckett List. Again, the podcast is now Weird and Whatever.
Weird, whatever.
Vicky, what do you got to plug?
Email contact@pointparanormal.com for your free 15. I'm booking into September now.
Don't be doing too much stuff though, because you're.
Well, it's band season. Both of my kids are in marching band, so I do have to slow down a bit.
Okay, good.
So-
I'm just saying, so
Yeah.
many problems. I think it
Yeah.
does weigh on a soul.
It does.
And Denny's.
At Producer Denny's on Twitter.
I'm at Jason Bigfoot on Twitter. We've got the Facebook. We're on YouTube, the Instagram. So, yeah, sign up, subscribe. It all helps. It's helping us out greatly. And we will see you guys. We got to talk about a group gathering where people actually come out to a bar and see us.
Oh yeah.
They're gonna want to meet. You're gonna be doing a lot of readings there. Vicky, tell me, does my boyfriend love me? No, he does not. We love you all, and Bigfoot is real.
What was that? What? What's that sound? It's aliens, and they're living in your town.